football. It's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The Untouchable, True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so I wanted to discuss something real interesting because Terence Crawford, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and God bless him making it on the Joe Rogan podcast. Hopefully one day we blow this shit up here on True School. Maybe one day I can get on the Joe Rogan podcast. That'd be crazy, but Terence Crawford has been making up for a lot of lost time of not being more of a mainstream star outside of boxing. So he's been taking a very long, prolonged victory lap in the sport, and he's just doing a lot of interviews, and it's great to see. It's great to see Terence Crawford getting his flowers, getting his just due, because he's a great fighter, and the whole world should know his name. And I don't mean just the boxing fans, right? But he caused quite a stir because before he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, before he even said this, he had said something different about this particular subject. Now, he brought up the fact that he would be willing to move up in weight from 147 all the way to either 160 or a catch weight of 158 in order to fight Canelo Alvarez in what would be, no doubt about it, a big event and a super fight for the sport of boxing. He'd have no problem going up in weight for Canelo Alvarez. However, Canelo Alvarez shot that down. He said he can't get down to 160. He can't get down to 158. It's just too much for him now. So he shot the fight down, and he said it wasn't going to happen, right? Then Terence Crawford came out, and he said basically that not only would he go up to 158 or 160, he even said, look, if Canelo can't come down to 158 or 160 and meet in the middle, then no problem. I will oblige, and I will go all the way up to 168, and I will try to challenge Canelo Alvarez for the undisputed title if he could, of course, defeat Jermell Charlo. Now, I'm very sure, I know for a fact that it caused a stir all over Twitter, all over social media. The Canelo fans and the Crawford fans were eating that shit up, arguing about who would win and this, that, and the third. And listen, it would be a huge event, no doubt about it. With Terence Crawford's increased star power, what he's accomplished in boxing, along with who Canelo Alvarez is in boxing, that would be one of the biggest events you could possibly make in the sport of boxing. One of the biggest fights you can make in the sport of boxing, right? And I'm very sure that the ears of the suits at Showtime, the executives, the guys that really call the shots and make the big decisions, they got really excited when they heard about the opportunity and the prospects of Terence Crawford willing to go up and make those kind of concessions to fight Canelo at 168, because it makes that fight much more realistic. However, and I'm going to come out and say this, because I like Terence Crawford. He's one of my favorite fighters. If you called me a Terence Crawford fanboy, I would obviously say I'm not a Terence Crawford fanboy, because I'm not a fanboy of anybody. But I wouldn't shoot it down, because I like him that much. I appreciate what he does so much that I really wouldn't shoot it down. He's a great fighter, and I really enjoy watching him fight more than a lot of fighters over the years. For people don't understand, like Terence Crawford, in terms of my favorite fighters, he's up there with like Roman Gonzalez as one of my favorite fighters ever. Like sometimes he's kind of like on the same level. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie to you, there's some times where maybe I might like him just as much, or maybe a little more than Roman Gonzalez. He's pretty up there for me, but he's not above criticism, and neither is Roman Gonzalez, right? Neither is Chocolatito, right? So here's what I'm saying. I don't want to see him fight Canelo. I don't care about him fighting Canelo. And quite frankly, I think it's a bit fugazi, because why fight Canelo Alvarez when you got a perfectly fine and good Jaron Ennis? Why? You got Boots right there. Great fighter, a great talent, a guy that is much like a Crawford was many years ago. Hell of a talent, knocking out the door, trying to get that signature fight so he can show the world the magnitude of who he is in the boxing ring. And Terence Crawford, look, I like him, but you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You can't. Well, we're not going to do that here on True School Sports. We're not going to give Terence Crawford a pass. And mind you, I know all the arguments. I know you're going to say, I know people who can't really call a spade when it comes to their favorite fighters are going to come in my comments and say, well, BT Boots went he went a different route. He went the WBA route and this, that, and the third. Okay, well that's water under the bridge. We can't hold him for what he did in his past. All right, we can't, and the same thing with Crawford or Spence. We can't hold these guys. You got to move forward in life. You can't move backwards. You got to move forward. The reality is, He beat the shit out of Errol Spence. Very few people think that Errol Spence is gonna beat him in the rematch. Okay. You got a perfectly fine and good Jaron Ennis, the real number 2 welterweight, because I always thought Crawford versus Spence was number 1 versus number 3, with Spence being number 3 and Crawford being number 1, and that was proven on the 29th of July. You get what I'm saying? So Boots was on, or not Boots. Crawford was on the Breakfast Club, not Joe Rogan, but he was on the Breakfast Club talking about Boots, and this is what he said about him. And I'm gonna read you guys word for word what he said, and we're gonna dissect it. He said the following, and I quote: "Listen. Right now in my career, a lot of people are like, Boots this, Boots that, Boots this, you know. Fighting Jaron Ennis is a lose-lose situation. If I win, they're going to say, oh, well, he was young and he wasn't ready. Me fighting Boots would be like, okay, well, you beat Boots. It's not a mega fight. I'm looking for big challenges, you know. I'm trying to go up and wait and fight Jermell Charlo because that's something that's history in the making. It's a lot at stake. You know there's nothing really at stake with fighting Boots." End quote for Terence Crawford. So he's becoming a risk management advisor now. Ain't that some shit? But I'm gonna say this, man. Like I'm gonna disagree with him. I'm gonna vehemently and respectfully disagree with Terence Crawford. You know, one of my favorite fighters and the undisputed champion of the world. Fighting Jaron Ennis is not a lose-lose situation. You're only saying that because you just touched it. I'm not gonna blame you. Like, at the end of the day, this is prize fighting, so it's about money. It's about earning the highest wage possible so you can live a nice, beautiful life after boxing, because this doesn't last forever. I get all that. However, I wouldn't say it's a lose. You touch life-changing money. You're not going to want to decrease that double when you probably only got, what, maybe 1-2 fights left in the sport. So I get where he's coming from. I really do. And Terence Crawford has proven all he's needed proven. Like, he doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't owe anybody anything. However, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot sit here and say fighting Jaron Ennis is a lose-lose situation and then say, well, I'm going to go up to 168 and fight Canelo, because that's just like I know it's dangerous, but there's this trend in boxing where, and it's pissing me off a little bit, where fighters are moving up in weight, 2 weight classes, 3 weight classes, and they're not fighting guys they're supposed to fight in their own damn weight. Examples I could use of this can go as far back as, 2016 and 2018. 2016, Kell Brook should have fought Jesse Vargas in a unification fight in which he would have been favored. He probably would have won, and he would have changed the whole course of his career. But what did he do? He went up for the money. He got his orbital broken by Gennady Golovkin. And he, although he had a great career, and I love him, and he's one of my favorite fighters, and I always love Kell Brook, he is one of British boxing's biggest what-if stories and underachievers. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? 2018, right? Was it 2018? 2018 and 2019. Mike Garcia really should have been talking about fighting Vasyl Lomachenko. That should have been a fight where he was all in. He even said himself that was a fight he was interested in. But when push came to shove, he didn't want to fight Lomachenko. He was too busy fighting the Dejan Zlatikins of the world and guys like that, and winning, beating Sergey Lipinets and things like that. Like, he wasn't interested in fighting Lomachenko, but he was more than happy to fight Errol Spence because he wasn't going to get criticized for fighting Errol Spence because he's daring to be great. But if he loses, there's no criticism towards him. And it's the same thing with Crawford. Same thing. He's doing the same thing. And I don't think it's cool, because you can't be a Terence Crawford fan. You can't be a fan of Terence Crawford and say, oh, well, Errol Spence ducked him, and this, that, and the third, and they didn't want to fight him, and PBC froze him out, and they didn't want to give him an opportunity. But then you got Jaron Ennis right here, and he's much like Terence Crawford. I know it's not exactly the same, but there's similarities in where he's at in his career now to where Crawford was at when he was getting the Errol fight. There's some similarities. If he doesn't fight Jaron Ennis any big times, which it sounds like he's doing, to lose situation, then he's doing the same thing to Boots that Errol Spence did to him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There isn't any ifs, ands, or buts about it, because at the end of the day, like, Jaron Ennis, people see the talent, they see the skills. He's definitely a threat to Terence Crawford. And mind you, I'm saying all these things. I'm saying all these things, and I'm already on record saying that if Terence Crawford fights Jaron Ennis anytime soon, he's going to beat Jaron Ennis by unanimous decision. I think he's going to outbox him, because I don't think Boots can cut off the ring. I think the Karen fight showed us a lot. It showed me enough about Boots to where I think he's a threat. I think he would be a dangerous opponent for Crawford, but I don't think he would have the ring generalship or the ability to cut the ring off enough or get close enough to him to where, you know, he would be able to, you know, be the guy, fight the fight he needs to fight to beat Terence Crawford, right? But I'm not such a Terence Crawford fanboy that I don't want to see it. And that's the problem with a lot of you boxing fans out there. A lot of people out there is that you guys are such fanboys of one fighter that you actually push for them not to be in certain fights. Like, I'll give you an example. My favorite fighter in history, and he's still fighting today, is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. He's the best. Nobody will ever surpass Roman Gonzalez. That's my guy. That will always be my guy. But at the same time, he was on Twitter recently talking shit about Sonny Edwards to Bam Rodriguez, right? And I made a video about it recently, and I said, look, Roman Gonzalez, if Sonny Edwards beats Bam, Roman Gonzalez better not duck Sonny Edwards. He's still at 115. He still wants to box, so don't talk all this retirement stuff if Bam beats or if Sonny beats Bam Rodriguez, right? So he's not above criticism. So y'all need to be like that. Y'all need to really start holding your own fighters' feet to the fire, because Crawford versus Canelo, on paper it sounds great. It's a great event for boxing. I'm sure it'll financially do well. I'm not knocking that, and I get this as a business. However, doesn't really prove anything. Like, it doesn't. Like, if Terence Crawford goes in there and loses, it doesn't prove anything. Like, and then he gets a loss. Really, he shouldn't have on his resume, because he shouldn't be up there fighting Canelo, right? So I'd rather see Crawford fight Jaron Ennis, and then on top of that, look at what's going on at 168. Canelo, we got a fight coming up with David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade soon, and those are two fighters right there, in Canelo and Andrade, that really and truthfully, they both have been chasing Canelo for a lot of years. And they both have had the Canelo fan base give many reasons over the years, and justify why he didn't fight them, right? But now I think, you know, with who both those guys are in boxing, what they've accomplished at the world championship level in the professional ranks, and with them now fighting each other like Canelo suggested they should a couple years ago, with them now fighting each other, whether Andrade beats Benavidez or Benavidez beats Andrade, I truthfully believe the winner of that fight should be afforded the opportunity to get their shot at getting their hands on Canelo Alvarez. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if Canelo fights Terence Crawford, then that's gonna fuck up everything from that will screw up everything in boxing from 147 to 168. It'll screw up everything in boxing. A lot of fighters won't get the opportunity to do anything. Divisions will stagnate. You know, it'll be bad for the sport. And, you know, at the end of the day, while I would like to fight, while it sounds nice, while I'm sure, you know, Showtime All Access will do a great job making a documentary about how Terence Crawford is daring to be great and trying to become a 3-time undisputed world champion like Clarissa Shields by going up to fight Canelo Alvarez and jumping up 3 weight classes. It's not good for the sport. And truthfully speaking, if you're someone out here that's advocating actively for Terence Crawford to fight Canelo, then you don't want what's best for the sport. You're telling me you don't want what's best for boxing. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do here on True School Sports. I'm here to advocate for the fights that are the best for the sport. Now, Crawford versus Canelo might be the best for the business, but I care about what's best for the sport. And long term, and honestly, Crawford versus Ennis would actually be better for the sport. Long term, it'd be better from a business standpoint. Why? Because you have with who Terence Crawford has become in boxing recently by defeating Errol Spence. That man right there, that young brother from Philadelphia right there, just by him being in the ring with Terence Crawford and the kind of exchanges and the kind of fight that's going to be, because, you know, my boy, when I had Sean Tatel on here recently, he spoke about it at length, that basically, like, if them two fight, it's going to be, you know, the exchanges we're going to get, the moments we're going to get in that fight are going to be so epic, so amazing that, you know, both fighters' reputation, both fighters' careers, the stock of both fighters will be enhanced greatly and exponentially if they fight each other. So I want to see the fight. I'm very interested in seeing Terence Crawford put those skills. I want that question answered. Like, who is the best switch hitter of this era? Who is the best at switch? Is it Terence Crawford or is it Jaron Ennis? I want to know that, because it's a big debate, and the best way I think we can settle that is if the two fight each other, and that would be the only fair way to see what's what. But I don't like. I'll be honest with you. I'm not gonna hold it. I'm not gonna like condemn him for it because there's no condemnation. Like, Terence Crawford's a great fighter and he's earned the right to do what he wants, but it doesn't make it right. Just because you should, right? Just because you can, just because you're able to, doesn't mean you should. Just because you are able to fight Canelo, doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean you should, right? The right thing to do would be to fight Jaron Ennis. The right thing to do would be to give that young man an opportunity at the shot the belts. The same way you've just got an opportunity. And I don't think the right thing to do either is give Errol Spence a rematch. Because truth be told, Errol Spence shouldn't be boxing. If a lot of people out there, it's funny, a lot of people out there that say Errol Spence Jr. was compromised and the car crash and those kind of things. Those same types of people I've heard also say that Errol Spence would beat Terence Crawford in a rematch 154. So you're talking about Boots being a lose-lose situation. I don't think there's any greater lose-lose situation than beating Errol Spence again, than fighting Errol Spence again. Because if you beat Errol Spence again, they're just gonna say, well, we already saw Crawford did Errol Spence. He beat the shit out of him once. We all knew he was gonna do that. So you're not gonna get any credit for beating him again, right? And then if Errol comes back and beats you, oh my God, you're gonna really hear from everybody, oh, well, it was the car crash. He was compromised. You're gonna hear all those things. So you're saying Boots is a lose-lose situation. There is no greater lose situation than Errol Spence. So that's where I stand. I'm drawing my line in the sand. Like, I get it. I understand the business aspect of it, but I'm not talking about the business aspect of it. I'm talking about the sport, which is the aspect that I'm interested in, is the sport. I think Terence Crawford versus Jaron Ennis would be such a great fight that, unlike the Errol Spence fight, I think it would actually warrant a trilogy. Not a trilogy, but at least a rematch. It would warrant a rematch, and you would see Terence Crawford and Boots Ennis really deliver for the fans in a major way. And that's just what it is. That's what it is, guys. Don't be a fanboy. Don't be a fan of man more than you are this great sport of boxing, because it's a great sport. It's a great sport with a lot of great fighters from a lot of different places, from a lot of different countries, from a lot of different cities, and you got to learn to appreciate fighters from everywhere. You got to learn to appreciate these fighters, man, and not just be such a fan of one that you can't appreciate the other or advocate for a guy that's got is just 31-0. You can say he ain't fought nobody, but there's been plenty of fighters in the history of boxing that fought quote-unquote nobodies that didn't go 31-0. Bernard Hopkins had his pro debut and lost to a nobody, right? So we've got to give Boots the credit for what he's been able to accomplish thus far in his career. And you can't say he hasn't fought anybody if the somebody in his division doesn't want to give him the opportunity to fight for his chance to prove the magnitude of who he is in the boxing ring. So I'm gonna leave it at that. That's my stance on Crawford and his recent comments about Boots being a lose-lose situation. But the truth be told, and I'll say it again: if you don't take nothing from this video, please take this. If Boots is a lose-lose situation, well, let me tell Terence Crawford this: there is no ultimate lose-lose situation than you fighting Errol Spence in the rematch. And listen, if you take Errol Spence in the rematch over Boots, I'm not gonna knock you for it. It won't even be a blemish in your career to me, but it will let me know that you took the fight strictly and only because of the money, because there is no greater lose-lose situation than Errol Spence in a rematch, because he can't beat you. He already showed that, a lot of people already think he's compromised, and if you beat him again, even worse, or even close to what you did in the first fight, you will not get credit for it, and people will just say, car crash this, car crash that, brain damage this, brain damage that. Why not just fight somebody who's younger, fresher, bigger, who has equal athleticism, can punch just as hard, if not harder than you, and isn't in his 30s, I think it's a lot more attractive of a fight, but who am I? At the end of the day, I don't make the decisions. Like, I don't make the decisions in boxing. I'm just a kid from Dania. I'm just a kid from South Florida, just a young guy from South Florida with a flamingo painting on his wall who loves this sport on a deep and profound level and just wants to see the best fights out there. And I want to advocate for that. So, that's my stance on Crawford in his career. God bless him. Still one of my favorite fighters. I just think he should look into giving Boots an opportunity. But I want to hear from you guys, because I've talked enough. I've given you guys a whole, damn near mini special. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you think Terence Crawford should give Jaron Ennis his opportunity to show who he is in the boxing ring? Or do you think he should follow through with what I think, honestly, is a fugazi, corny fight at 168 between him and Canelo Alvarez? It's gonna destroy the whole sport of boxing from 147 to 168. And yeah, truthfully, I think if you're advocating for that, you just don't care about the sport. So, yeah, leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.
Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. We're here at the Hatanaka Boxing Gym in Nagoya, Japan. And for more great videos just like this one, make sure you guys click right here.